Let's set the scene. It's Sir Donald Bradman's 90th birthday. And there, in one iconic photo, you have the greatest batsman who ever lived meeting the man who would become the greatest of the modern game, Sachin Tendulkar. It was the only time they ever met, but that meeting was built on a single compliment that, honestly, still echoes through the world of cricket today.
You really have to understand the sheer weight of these words. This wasn't just any compliment. For a legend like Bradman, who almost never made these kinds of comparisons, to say this about a young Tendulkar, well, it was called probably the greatest compliment any cricketer can get. And just like that, an unbreakable link was forged between two giants of the game.
And that right there is the central question we're going to unpack. Because when you really look closely, their styles, their stats, their entire eras, they were so different. So what was this deeper connection that Bradman saw? What was he really getting at?
Okay, so where do we even begin? Well, the most obvious place to start is the numbers. And right away, you see that these two legends reach the peak of the same mountain, but from completely different sides. I mean, look at this. Bradman's test average of 99.94, it isn't just the best, it's a statistical impossibility. It's almost double the next best player in the entire history of the game. He's such an extreme outlier, he almost seems like a myth.
But then, on the flip side, you've got Tendulkar. If Bradman represents this untouchable peak of average, Tendulkar represents an untouchable peak of sheer volume and longevity. 100 international centuries. Think about that. In an era of non-stop travel, crushing pressure, and 3 different formats of the game, that's a record that's probably never, ever going to be broken.
So, you see what I mean? It's like two different definitions of greatness. You have Bradman, the absolute master of his era, hitting this perfect concentrated peak, and then you have Tendulkar, the master of the modern game, achieving a volume of success across decades and against every team on the planet that is just staggering.
Okay, so if the numbers tell two different stories, maybe Bradman saw something in how Tendulkar played, in his technique. But here's the thing. This is where the mystery actually gets even deeper.
On the surface, they looked nothing alike, seriously. Modern analysis shows Bradman had this very unique, rotational, wristy style, with this quick, scuttling footwork. Tendulkar? He was the model of a modern power player, perfectly balanced with that picture-perfect high elbow. So if it wasn't a carbon copy of style, what on earth was it?
It turns out the answer wasn't in the shape of their shots, but in the purpose behind them. It wasn't physical, it was philosophical. It was a shared mindset, an aggressive intent that was the engine for both of their games.
See, these are like the hidden blueprints to their genius. For both of them, a perfectly still head at the moment the bat hit the ball. For both, attack was always the default option. Every single delivery was seen as a chance to score. The goal wasn't just to survive, it was to completely dominate the bowler and take control of the game.
And a mindset like that, it doesn't just happen by accident. It was forged in almost identical crucibles of lonely, obsessive practice when they were just kids. And this, right here, is where we find the real heart of their connection.
This part of the story is just incredible. Decades apart, on opposite sides of the world, both of these boys invented these unique, insanely difficult training methods for themselves. You had Bradman hitting a golf ball with a cricket stump against a curved water tank for hours, building lightning-fast reflexes, and then Tendulkar hitting a special egg-shaped golf ball in his living room to perfect his soft hands so he wouldn't smash everything in the house. All that obsessive, solitary practice allowed both of them to access what we now call a flow state. You know what I'm talking about? It's that zone where your focus is so complete, time seems to slow down, and you just react on pure, hardwired instinct. And just listen to how Tendulkar himself described this. He said his conscious mind, the thinking part, would be down at the other end, watching the bowler. But when it was his turn to face the ball, his subconscious, all those thousands of hours of practice, would just take over. That's an absolutely extraordinary level of mental control. So all of this was built on a shared mental framework. Of course, they had unshakable self-belief, but it was also balanced with this deep humility that was grounded in strong family values. They both had this lifelong curiosity to keep learning about the game. And, maybe most importantly, they both had this incredible ability to build a mental fortress and just shut out the crushing pressure from the outside world. And speaking of that pressure, well, that might be the most profound connection of them all, because both of these men became so much more than just cricketers. They became living, breathing symbols of their nations at absolutely pivotal moments in history. You have to look at the world they each walked into. Bradman came along during the Great Depression, a really tough time when Australia was desperately searching for its identity.
Tendulkar rose to fame just as India's economy was opening up in the 90s, and he became the face of a new, confident nation that was ready to take its place on the world stage.
For Australia, Bradman was a symbol of resilience. Here was this kid from the countryside who was better than anyone in the world, especially the English. He was a source of national pride when people really needed it.
And for India, Tendulkar embodied a whole new kind of belief. He literally carried the hopes of 1 billion people on his shoulders. When Sachin scored, the whole country soared with him. He was living proof that an Indian could be the best in the world.
And that right there might be the deepest similarity of all. When Bradman got out, Australia's spirit dipped. When Tendulkar got out, 1 billion people fell silent. They both knew what it was like to shoulder the unimaginable weight of their country's hopes and dreams every single time they walked out to bat.
So, let's circle all the way back. What did Bradman see in Tendulkar? He saw way more than just a batting stance. He saw that same aggressive intent to dominate. He recognized a mind that could slip into that rare flow state. He saw a technique that was built not by coaches but in lonely obsession. And maybe, just maybe, he saw the reflection of another man who knew the burden and the honor of carrying a nation's hopes on his shoulders.
And it just leaves you with this one last thought, doesn't it? At the end of the day, their connection wasn't just about cricket. It was about a shared psychology of greatness. It makes you wonder, what's the true mark of a genius? Is it the cold, hard numbers we leave in the record books? Or is it the legacy we build in the hearts and minds of the people?